then let me go ahead and get you the link spammed up. Uh, okay. I swear, fucking YouTube, man.
You already know.
Man. I wanna leave, but that's where everybody at. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
shit.
Unfortunately, this is just what we got to deal with. So, we try to make the best of it.
Yeah, indeed, indeed, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. All right, so let me first thank you for being here, and Islam more. You know what I'm saying? Shout
Islam.
out to all the brothers in the empire. But how did we get here? How did your journey? Um, give me the long route, and how did you come into being in the National Divine Movement? How did you come to this position in your life?
Well, I started out as everybody else, Negro, black, colored. Thought we came over here on slave ships, and the regular the regular narrative that's pushed to our people. Um, and that was probably up until about um, say 90, probably about until 95, 96. And then we started getting into the Ashraquazi information, Eugene Adams, blacks in Asia, and stuff like that. Steve Coakley,
Okay.
the Dr. Ben, John Henrik Clark, Van Sertima, the regulars.
Yeah.
From that, we moved into getting into more of the metaphysical studies with Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, C. Freemanel, Delbert Blair, um, uh, anything dealing with the metaphysical realm. So a lot of Hilton Hotima,
Okay.
um, uh, you know, anything dealing with the metaphysics and masonry and things like that. And about 2000 and say 2006, I was introduced to the Moorish paradigm with sorry, I was introduced to the Moorish paradigm with Umar Shabazz Bey,
Okay.
with We Are the Washita.
Okay.
They have the book We Are the Washita, and Dr. Alim El Bey. And then we brought Brother Alim out here to do some lectures. This is around that time, 2005, 2006. Brought him out here. We're in Canaanland, by the way, near Toronto. And he came out here with the Moorish tags and the Moorish paperwork from North Carolina to here.
Okay.
So that was sort of a paradigm shift because, you hear, well, we didn't even hear about it at that time.
Mm.
This was just, we called him up here to do a metaphysical lecture. Peace to Brother Alim Bey and Kadira Bey. Um, we brought him out here to do a metaphysical lecture. And when they were ready to go, we were just at the car building, and we noticed that they're from North Carolina, but they don't got North Carolina tags,
Okay.
and they had Washita tags. And then he started breaking down the whole thing about we're us being Moors, and we have these inalienable rights. Look into the UN declarations, look into American declarations. That if you need some more info, just let me know, and
Mhm.
we could set something up. So so we brought him back here again, and then that's when we got introduced to the Moorish paradigm from the perspective of the Washita. We were there for a few years, and then in 2008, searching for more on the Moorish paradigm, bumped into a Moor by the name of Richard Neil Bay,
Okay.
on MySpace, and their temple was having a convention that year, 2008. So they said, well, if you really want to know about what this is about, you should probably, actually be at the convention. So we went there, and that was probably one of the most awakening into consciousness experiences that I had ever sit, more than the metaphysics and all that, because, at that point, um, we thought we had it in the bag.
Right.
We thought we knew everything about this thing, and then this thing comes up, Noble Drew Ali, and or who is this? Who is this brother dressed like this that nobody's ever spoke about
Yeah.
ever?
Yeah.
And if and I mean, from out here, he wasn't mentioned at all. Like, it
Okay.
was actually having to go out and research and find out who this individual was. So, um, went to Chicago, to Mecca. It was 8126 South Cottage Grove
I know
at
where
the
that's
time.
at. I know where
Yeah.
that's at. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so we were with those Moors there, and we were there for a weekend. Um, they gave us all the goods of what this is about, gave us all the contacts that we needed for everybody that we should be connected to, and we came back here with our charter and started being Moors. You know,
Now let me ask
yeah.
you: did you guys get any pushback with what you were bringing up there to the people? Was there
Oh yeah,
resistance and
definitely,
hesitation?
definitely. One of the first things that we did was set up a unity conference, because after, in our circle had everybody from every school of thought, because out here, just to back up again, from about late 90s to maybe mid 2000s, um, we had a group out here called Cultural Educators of Toronto.
Okay.
And what cultural educators was basically that, bringing cultural education to the masses. So over the years, we had we brought Bobby Hemmett here, Phil Valentine, Brother Kaba, um, um, Queen Mother Imaku, Black Dot, Professor Griff, um, Autumn Ashanti. We brought a few people out here, just to lecture, to present information. We used to go to schools on lunchtime, do school lunch programs and all this type of stuff.
Mhm.
So when we found out about the Moorish paradigm, we thought it was going to be easy. Everybody supported everything else that we're on.
Right.
So all we got to do is put this out there, and it's going to be a cakewalk. And it turned out to be not really like that, because our people are entrenched in their blackness
Okay.
and their Africanness. You know, so the pushback really came when we started to figure out how are we going to bring these people together. Okay, how about we have a unity summit, and we'll send out the email to all the different schools of thought that we belong to, coming up back in the day. These are people who we know personally. And we'll invite them to an open forum where we could discuss about everything. But the point is going to be to bring up this thing about nationality and its importance, since we came from all these different schools of thought, and nobody's ever mentioned nationality. They mention us being a nation. They mention nationhood. They mention relative words that have to do with nation, but not what our nationality was, which what we thought was, the missing key to us really breaking this thing open, because it was already pretty much locked down as far as our people. We can get any university that we want to do a lecture. We can put the word out, and there's gonna be, everybody's gonna be presented. Everybody's gonna show themselves. So we maybe had um, maybe 4 or 5 of all the people that we emailed show up. So that's what let us know that, okay, this might be something that we have to put a little bit more energy towards, opposed to thinking that, we got it. Let's slow down. Let's backtrack and do it a different way. So we started going to getting library spaces, getting community center spaces, and just, presenting this information. They have a festival out here called Afrofest, where you get to vend. So we would have our 3 6 by 6 foot tables, every DVD that you could have, You know what I mean? Just being in the community so that the people could see the Moors and be involved or whatever. And then we noticed with at Afrofest, the years that we did Afrofest was that the only people who were coming up to the table to really discuss and figure out stuff were international people, you know, and the thing that they came up to was, well, how come your people don't know? How come your people don't know this information? How come you can tell me about, say we're talking to a Sri Lankan and we tell them about, Ceylon and, the original name of Sri Lanka. And they're like, wow, how do you, how you know that? Well, just from studying, we like to read and all that stuff, Um, so dealing with the international community and realizing that, okay, well, they're obviously privy to certain information that our people aren't privy to if they're going to be on it like that, like on it to the point where going in their wallet, pulling out the picture of their great whoever with the fez on, you know, oh my gosh, I haven't seen a fez in, 20 years, can I try your fez on? Want to take pictures with the fez on and all that stuff. It was a surreal experience. Those first few years in Afrofest, looking at our people pass us by and looking at these people who don't even speak English running up to us, want to take pictures and all that, talking from Asians, East Asians, West Asians, North Asians, South Asians, Europeans, whoever. Everybody knew a little something, I mean, about what this was. So, we just realized that the pushback is going to be there. This is really geared towards people who are in a certain frame of mind. So, like Noble Drew Ali said, we're going to keep the doors open. Whoever wants it, doors open. You know what I mean? And those who wanted it eventually started coming through the doors one by one. There was times where we would have, print up our flyers, distribute our flyers, and we'll just be at the spot, just waiting
Mm-hmm.
for people to show up, and it would just be us there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It would just be us. And we figured, throw in the towel. Nah, it can't really be like that. There's got to be some people out there who want this info. So, the pushback was really more inspiration for us to, keep the fire going, because we realized what it was that Drew Ali brought, and the fact that it was not apparent here proved that it was needed. Another thing with regard to Chicago is when we went there, they pulled out an article from the Moorish Guide newspaper, and the article is on. If you go to rvbaypublications.com, under the Canaanland Moors section, we put the article on there, and the article was dealing with the fact that Noble Drew Ali wanted to have temples here. This was part of the reasoning behind them giving us a charter, giving us everything that we needed, because they had seen us going to Chicago to find out about the Moorish movement and Noble Drew Ali as Noble Drew Ali's prophecy manifesting for temples to be here. Right? So it was a big deal to them. We didn't find this out till later. It was a big deal to them. So the article is talking about Oscar Bruton and a woman by the name of Leona Bruton. Now, in the black circles, Leona Bruton out here is known as like the first, she had like one of the first hair spots out here. She had one of the first community centers out here. She was somebody prominent in the quote unquote black community, for the liberation of our people or whatever. So when we found out that, well, hold on a second, Leona Bruton knew who Noble Drew Ali was, then this must be something, because she's big time out here. You know what I mean? So it was really inspiration for us to really get our feet knee deep in this and keep there, stay there.
Okay.
Because it wasn't here, and it was something that we figured would have an impact here.
Let me ask you this. And I know you're well aware of the usual pushback questions that people tend to ask you, but just for general context, like the one question I want to ask you that I know you're getting tired of being asked, why is it nationality is only purported through the Moorish temple? Why can't nationality be pursued outside of the Moorish paradigm for those that are, not in the temple, right? Because nationality has, oh, it resonates with people, even though they don't understand it. They know it's important, whether
Right.
they have knowledge of self or not. And um, why is that kind of a stigma? Like, well, I want to be, I want my nationality corrected, but why I got to go through this to be recognized as such? What do you usually
Well,
say to the questions to people that ask those questions?
well, at the point now, you could pretty much go, you could pretty much get it from other sources than the temple, which is sort of the problem, right? The Moor Science Temple has been very um, relaxed in their duty from the perspective of nationality.
Okay.
People have ever since the passing of Noble Drew Ali, people have looked at the Moorish movement, the Moorish Science Temple, the Moors as a whole as some religious thing. And you already know when it comes to religion with our people who are conscious, they're not trying to hear that.
Right.
So, they look at it from the perspective, or they look at it from the wrong perspective, which is why they don't want to know. But then if you just look at the killing that happened the other day, when the brother got shot in the back of the head or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he was Congolese. They never called him black
That's right.
ever.
That's right. Right.
No article said black guy shot like how they do with when the black guys are shot, right? So the fact that they identified him by nationality and didn't call him black should be something to let people say, oh, maybe I should at least consider what the Moors are saying, because they didn't disrespect this man and call him out of his name, even though he was murdered by police, regardless of what he was doing or whatever the case is. Um, you know, they identified him by nationality, which should let our people know that those people know what the Moors are talking about. You know what I mean? Uh, and then when you look at, for example, with the rise of the Moor situation, the way that they spun that to get our people to look at Moors as some renegade, sovereign citizen, anti-government, whatever, which again is going to let our people say, Moors, I don't want nothing to do with that, because if that's what's going to happen to me being a Moor, then why would I want to be a Moor? Without them really understanding the context
Gotcha.
of what happened. So what it really comes down to with our people is that um, the leadership of the Moors, especially the Moor Science Temple, hasn't been pushing the civic side of the information. They've been pushing it from the religious perspective,
Okay.
which is automatically going to turn our people away. And the fact that they turn away from it when they hear it from them lets us know that those individuals are part of some type of COINTELPRO operation to keep the people away from this info.
Let me ask you this. You up to speed with the rise of the Moors? What's going on with them? Correct.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Were they doing too much?
Um, One of the things that we looked at with regard to the rise of the Moor situation is that nobody ever said that the European militias are doing too much.
Okay.
They've been around. These people ran up in state buildings and all that stuff, hanging off balconies with AKs. Nobody said anything to those people. But as soon as Moors start wanting to exercise rights, and whether it's right to bear arms, right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right to whatever it is,
Mhm.
right? As soon as Moors start doing it, it's a problem. So with regard to Rise of the Moors, me myself, I'm not in the gun arena. You know what I mean? That's not where I'm at. But I know that that right exists. And like I said, I know that Europeans have been doing this ever since they came to this land as foreigners, right?
Hmm.
They've been exercising right to bear arms. They've been doing it. They've been doing criminal activity with arms. People say nothing to them, you know. So in my opinion, I don't think they were doing too much. They were being themselves, especially when you're talking about individuals who are ex-military, ex-marine, ex whatever. We're not talking about some nobodies who don't know, you know what I mean, the rules of engagement. We're
Right.
talking about competent people who've been trained by U.S. When they had guns with U.S, it wasn't a problem. Everything was good when they had guns as U.S citizens or whatever.
Hmm.
Now that they're Moors and they're exercising arms, now there's a problem.
Okay, fair enough. But do you agree that if we're a special case, if we're a special people, um, should we not move a little differently? You know, I get what the Europeans do, but Europeans will take everybody out with them if need be. Us as a people, we're not that bloodthirsty to prove a point. If what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, if what I'm asking is fair, should they have just, moved a little bit differently, not just flex the muscles that because you can do it. You know what I'm saying? If you're sovereign, you don't have to let everybody know you're sovereign. There's a beauty in kind of moving in silence and doing what you want to do without, raising the alarms to a certain extent.
Well,
Is
look
that
at it.
fair?
Yeah,
To,
yeah. Look at it from this perspective as well. Um, the first question that they ask the highwayman is, "What's the probable cause?" What the highwayman say?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. How's that your answer? There has to be probable cause if there's a crime committed. There has to be a injured party. There was none of those things. Now, when you look at the body cam video of the highwayman that stopped to assist them because they were pulled over,
Mhm.
did he seem threatened to you?
No, I mean,
No.
considering the situation, they were some of the calmest officers I've ever seen. you
All
know,
right. So just based on that, all it takes is, what's your phone number? What's your give me a card. You're just let me help you get that gas and the stuff so you can go wherever you're going. And there wouldn't have been any 11-hour standoff or anything like that.
Mhm.
The only reason that it was that was because the state of Massachusetts is corrupt. And you can go through U.S records and they'll tell you how corrupt state of Massachusetts is. Not just regard to arms or whatever. This is just across the board. State of Massachusetts is corrupt, right?
Mhm.
That's just how they do. No different than when you say if you say Texas, state of Texas, you could go anywhere with your arms. It doesn't even matter. They don't care. There's no dispute, there's no argument, there's no whatever. You got the right, and then that's that. Well, if all these states are part of one union, how is it different in all these different states? Shouldn't it be the same across the board if all of them are talking about the Constitution as the supreme law of the land?
Right.
It should be the same across the board for every state.
Agreed.
The fact that it's not lets you know that, one, they buried all the republics and they started pushing the democracies, and then now, because it's democracy powers that are ruling, now you have these type of things happening, right? Now, again, the point that I want to present with regard to the rise of the Moore situation is that there's no probable cause and there's no injured party. There's no probable cause and there's no injured party. Once there's no probable cause and there's no injured party, there should be no case. Moors are still locked up right now.
So, with that being said, what should we take away from this case? If you're a Moor or
Um,
not, it doesn't matter if you're RBG, 5%er, whatever the case may be. If you have melanin in your skin and you exercise certain rights and liberties, um, What should we all take away from this case?
Take away that the people who you thought were the government, they're actually not that. The people who you thought were the state of whatever, they're actually not that. They're private, foreign, European colonial operations in our land. And the only reason that they can do that is because too many of our people don't have a nationality. Too many of our people don't understand the truth about their birthrights. So once you don't know your rights, you don't have any, which is why our people don't have any rights, which is why our people keep getting abused, because they keep assuming that these people are government. They keep assuming that these people have their best interests at hand when they don't. They're colonials, they're colonists, they're pirates. They're not the legitimate de jure government. The real government is the people. And if the people don't realize that they're the government, then there's no government. Then you have tyranny and all this stuff that's going on that we say, the government is supposed. No, they're not government. Stop calling Walmart government. Stop calling McDonald's government. Because as soon as you do that, you gave them governmental powers that they don't have.
Okay. Okay. I hear all that. And I'm going to respond to that like an average person would. So we get the nationality, turn in the paperwork, government recognizes us, still no remedy. Where are the hardliners to kind of back up our position of being nationals in our land? Because let's be honest, they only respect violence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm not saying that should be the case, but for every group ever mentioned that has ever occupied any land that didn't belong to them, and when they decimate the original doctrines and set up their own doctrines, at the end of the day, it's always backed by violence. Yeah. Is it possible for a group of people under severe occupation like we are to do everything, pencil whip them to death, but with no physical backing of militia of any type to reinforce, hey, we're not to be trifled with? Is that possible?
No, but look at what we're recognizing. That's what the Moorish militia was.
Okay.
That's what that was. That was your people right there.
Okay.
The people who were supposed to stand up for you or whatever, if we're saying that we're a nation, that was them. What did they do to them? They got them out of circulation quick, fast. Because they realized that if the Moors set up their militia, they could already go out there with their ID, go into federal buildings, go on planes, do whatever, right? We know Moors who have done that, right? Everybody who was involved with Rise of the Moors or with the Moorish militia situation, as far as the people on the inside, they already sued all these states or whatever, and they threw all the suits out. They dismissed their suits, which again is supposed to let you know the callous disregard that these people have for rights.
Right.
Right. The fact that you had Europeans, including Moors, going on platforms and talking about, oh, they're wrong, they shouldn't be doing that or whatever, but they have nothing to say with the Europeans violating our people in their own land, lets you know that the odds are against the Moors. The odds are against the Moors. So when we say, what could we have to show that we have might? That's what Moorish militia was supposed to be. And everybody was supposed to back that, just like they back, Fruits of Islam.
But here's the problem. When I hear him on camera saying we're not a part of that divine movement, and then you get jammed up, now you're asking for help, doesn't help his case. Is that fair to say?
Well, the reason why they can say they're not part of that from that perspective is because of the individuals who they dealt with that shut them down,
Okay.
that are supposed to be looking at them as their brothers. For example, we're Morris Science Temple of America, right? We back Moorish militia 100% because they're our brothers first. They're
Okay.
Moors before anything else, right? Their activity wasn't, they didn't rob anybody with the guns. They didn't go to state buildings and kick the door in and say we're taking this back or whatever. They didn't go stealing houses or anything like that. All they were doing was going to train. That's all. That's all they were doing.
Gotcha.
They were just going to train. Because again, we're looking at people who are experienced in the field. We're not talking about people who don't know what they're talking about. We're talking about ex-Marines and all that. And if if they can have the guns and go to Iraq and go to Saudi Arabia and whatever like that, go to Vietnam, murder their brothers and sisters for the U.S. Corporation and be free to do that, then how come these Moors aren't free just to go train? Because they work for U.S. And U.S. is looking at them like, you can't take the training that we
And
gave
we
you
gave you to use it against us. Yes.
and try to use it against us.
Yeah.
You
The whole
can't do
spook
that.
sat by the door. Yes. That's
Yeah,
exactly what
yeah,
that is. Yeah.
and that's why they're that mad at them. That's why they went at them how they went at them, because they're giving up the goods. No different than, just like you said, spook by the door. They're gonna be mad. But what the international community has done with the UN declarations of rights of indigenous people, the UN declarations of rights of or the American Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, what the international community has done was said, even if you colonize, you still have an obligation to the indigenous people.
Okay.
You can't just do whatever you want because you colonized. That's not how colonization works.
Right.
You still have to acknowledge and um, respect the rights of the first people of the land, whatever right it is that they decide to exercise. So one of the things that they have out here um, to sort of get away with violating the rights is they have this thing called land acknowledgement, where in every institution, whether it's school, university, um, um, boarding school, union, whatever, they have this thing where before all their meetings, they read the land acknowledgements. And the land acknowledgements is them saying, hi, we're colonists. We're just letting you know that we colonized the land of these people. We colonized the land of these people. We colonized the land of all these indigenous people. And we're just giving acknowledgement that we colonized their land. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you this final question on the rise of the Moors. Do they beat their case?
Say that again.
My final question on the rise of the Moors. Do they beat their case?
How about this? There's been no charges. They just kidnapped them.
I'm about to say now. If that's the case, they're still.
There's not even any case like that. They're still having hearings. They
Gotcha.
haven't had a trial yet.
And it's funny because
no. Let's look at this now, right? So somebody gets kidnapped, right? Because they 11-hour standoff and whatever like that. Every single time they went before a judge, it was for a hearing. It wasn't for trial.
Right.
Now that was what, July 3rd, 4th or whatever, right? And then Moors just got bail couple of weeks ago. So Moors got bail. That's not in the news that these Moors got bail, right? They're not talking about that. They're not talking about the fact that the judges, there's probably been two judges on the hearings that they removed from the case. They did their job. They said, nope, these people are dangerous offenders. We don't want to whatever like that. So we're going to keep them. Okay, so if they're so dangerous, how are they getting bail? Isn't that a conflict of interest?
It is.
Isn't that hypocrisy?
It is.
That they had they had hearings for them to see if they're dangerous or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is in August or September or whatever, right? They found them dangerous and denied them bail. And then now they're giving them bail. Now, I would say that there's no case. I would say that they just, the same thing that they're worried about the Moors doing is
Mm-hmm.
what they did. Right? The same thing that they're worried about these Moors who have arms, oh my God, they're gonna, and made this whole threatening thing, is what state of Massachusetts did. The exact same thing. Right? So when we say, would they beat their case, that's colored, because there's no case.
Okay.
Because there hasn't even been a trial for these people.
Okay. So do you see them eventually being released?
Yeah, well, like we said, there's only 2 Moors that's in there right now.
Okay.
Everybody else is out. But they're not going to talk about that, because if they talk about it, then it makes them look kind of off.
Gotcha.
In what their attempt was in the first place.
Right.
You know what I mean? How come it didn't make the news? Just like how it made the news that they were on
When
the
they
highway
first got,
and all that stuff.
yeah.
How come no news is about that they got bail?
Mm-hmm.
That should be news. Same way they covered the trial and them going to court, and they covered all this other stuff. How come they're not covering that these Moors got bail? Something's going on. Something's going on in higher places that we don't. We're just sitting back. We got our popcorn and we're just watching to see where this thing goes. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. Taj Tariq Bey, he's been getting some pushback. Let me say from the younger generation of Moors. Is there a division that you're aware of, that you can see from the old heads versus the young guns, and when it comes to the Moorish doctrine? Do you see that?
I think that the with regard to Taj Tariq Bey, he's done so much more work with regard to getting this information to our people than 90% of the temples have done. Temples been around for 100 years. Taj has been around for probably 30, 40.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In his 40 years of putting out this info, he's put out more than the temples have done in 100 years with regard to what this really is about. When the people received the information that the temples were supposed to give them from an outside source, and they realize the benefit of knowing the truth about this information, that this is not some religious thing, this is not some we're Islamic and we go pray 5 times a day or whatever. This is about us being able to exercise our rights, our God-given rights that everybody else is able to exercise with no issue.
Mm-hmm.
How come we can't? Right? The pushback the pushback against Taj is really from the old heads like him that are in the temple.
Okay.
The new or the younger generations that are talking any type of slander, negativity, libel, or whatever against Taj, I bet you it's because some old head against Taj put them onto that. Because if they would study what he presented, they'll realize that all he's doing is giving them the information that they need in order to get out of the mental slavery that they're in right now. And the reason why we're in the mental slavery again is because after Noble Drew Ali, majority of people sold out the Moorish movement, including Hebrew Israelites, who we know in the 1800s they were known as the Moorish Zionist Jews.
Okay.
Right? That's where Hebrew Israelites come out from. So Hebrews are Moors too, because the Moorish Zionist Jews are Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nation of Islam, who we know for a fact that Fard Muhammad was known as Noble Drew Ali reincarnated. Why would he call himself that if they're not trying to be Moors? Why would that be his name? Why would they call Fard Muhammad Prophet after Noble Drew Ali, but not call him Prophet before Noble Drew Ali?
Gotcha.
Right. And again, the influence that that they're able to wield today is because they sold out back then.
Okay.
But to us, Taj is he's the master teacher. You know what I mean? And anybody who is talking negative or talking against um, him when all he's doing is presenting information, that's it. He's not doing anything else. All he's doing is putting information out. The fact that they have a problem with someone putting out right information lets us know they want our people to stay in mental slavery. And then now you have to question, well, why these people want our people to stay in mental slavery?
Mhm.
You know?
For me, and I keep saying this, for me, 2014 to 2017, the Moors, you know, had the wave, had the juice, were mainstream for all intents and purposes. Like they were next up. They had the flag. I'm rooting for these guys. I'm like, yeah, oh shit. It's, I'm thinking it's,
Yeah.
and then, it's like, what happened? So,
Yeah.
in your eyes, what happened?
Again, it's, Noble Drew Ali made a statement that it's your own wearing turbans and fezzes that's going to put you back in slavery.
Hmm.
And that's what happened, because like we're saying, we're talking you're saying 2014, we're saying 2008, when we came in, Moors had a lockdown
Okay.
at that time. You know what I mean? So when I say lockdown, for example, the Moors that were in the temple that brought us into this, everybody had their own tags at that time.
Mhm.
Everybody had their own tags. All the Moors in that temple that had a conveyance, they had their own tags. Nobody had no Illinois plates back then. When those Moors had court, they had so much power. They had so much force behind them in 2008, 2009, 2010, that when they go to court, there's no court. Court's closed that day. So anybody who had court that day, all their stuff was thrown out that day. Right now, think about the impact that would have across all the different states. That all Moore's got to do is send a writ to the court. Hey, we got court. We're going to send our paperwork to the court before we go there. When you send the paperwork to the court receives it, and they say, you know what? No court today. Anybody who has a court date on this day, we're throwing your stuff out. Just because we don't want these Moors coming up in here with their, quote unquote, knowledge of the law and putting people on game who we're robbing. So we'll just dismiss everybody's, and, hopefully they don't know that it's because of the Moors, and we'll see them in court again a day when the Moors aren't here. So what happened was our own, whether it was infiltration, whether it was, and I think part of, I was talking with somebody about this earlier today. Part of that issue with 2014, 2015, when you started seeing stuff start to go on the decline, was because Moore's teachings went online.
Okay. Prior
to that, you had to go to the lecture to learn. You couldn't just go online and find out about Moors like that. You would have to go to the lecture, right? So the whole thing with people being able to do this, for example, now allowed people who were incompetent, people who were disingenuous, people who were traitors, people who were sellouts. They now had the ability to sway people's quote unquote vote, right?
Mm.
They had the ability to do that because the individuals who were doing lectures were still doing lectures. They weren't doing online, right? Like, for example, we just got RV Bay Publications, for example. They just started doing stuff online when, we started inviting them to do Skypes and stuff like that.
Okay.
Prior to that, you're going to the lecture to learn,
Yeah.
which is a whole different learning than this format. Especially when you have, again, individuals who don't have the sincerity,
Mm.
and they don't have the courage to be in front people's face with this info. They're gonna do it this way so they can talk BS and get away with it. People could say they wouldn't go to for example, they wouldn't go to a Rise of the Moors class and say that the Moorish militia are domestic terrorists. They're gonna say that online because they know ain't nobody gonna tell. What's he gonna do if somebody says something online?
Right.
That's why Tyson said the problem with this generation is people got too comfortable online because they can't get punched in the face.
I agree. I agree.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
You know.
Let me ask you. Okay, so I grew up old school. I was taught that Moors cannot be Masons, vice versa. As I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what? That's not a fight that I care to have with people these days. You're gonna do what you're gonna do.
Right.
Moors that are Masons. What are your thoughts on that? Can you be a Moor and be a Mason at the same time?
The only way that you can be a Moor and a Mason is if you recognize that a Mason is a son of his mother.
Okay.
That's the only way. You could be a Moor and a Mason. So when somebody says, I'm a Moor and I'm a Mason, and then they start talking about they belong to a lodge or whatever like that, they're not a Moor, they're a lodge member.
Right.
So for example, I'm a son of my mother. You're a son of your mother. Any other man out there is a son of their mother. So they're a Mason, right? The other way that a Moor could be a Mason is if the Moor is a builder and deals with, cement and stuff like that. And then, you could come fix your stairs and all that stuff. And he has a fez on and he's fixing the cracked stairs and all that stuff. Then a Moor could be a Mason. But, the stigma is to try to get Moors to look as if we're copying them when really it's them copying Moors.
Right.
Right. So one of the greatest books on the subject is Moors and Masonry by Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey. And if everybody wants to write this down, 215-300-5471. 215-300-5471. Let them know that Brother Kudro sent you to get the book, Moors and Masonry. You want to know about Moors and Masonry and what it means or whatever? Go get that. They'll straighten you out immediately. If after you read this and you're still confused about Moors and Masonry, then you probably have some screws loose that you need to go check yourself out.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Where do you see the movement going at this point? Because I see a lot of division. Part of the reason why I kind of step back, I see a lot of division, a lot of infighting. It seems the ills have befallen them, just like the NOI, just like Christianity. Everybody's divided and splintered up. If there's one thing I thought the Moors would be a little bit more cognizant of is handling things behind closed doors and not per se running to the internet with their internet beefs and gripes. Where do they go from here? Is it still more splintering and more division and everyone just plant their own flags and go their own separate ways? Or can the brothers somehow rein it back in to a certain extent and at least be respectful of each other's disagreements and viewpoints?
Well, just going back quick fast, another one is Isonomy with regard to the Moors and the Masons.
That's a great book.
You can get this one at
fucking book. Yes.
khalifamedia.com.
Yeah.
This is another one that if you read this and you read this, you should be clear with regard to that connection, the Moors and Masonry connection. So where do the Moors go from here. What what when you're talking about the infighting and things like that, that's not something new, right? During Noble Drew Ali's time, Moors were going against Moors because there were Moors who were um, true, faithful Moors, and then there were traitors. Same thing that you got today. So when people look at the infighting of Moors and they start to, well, why can't the Moors get together or whatever? That's like saying, well, why can't the people get along with the pedophile? The people should be getting along with the pedophiles because they're brothers. No, they're not. One of them is a traitor. One of them is a sellout. And the infighting is the righteous people standing up against the sellouts,
Mhm.
right? Our people's problem is that they're looking from the outside in, so they don't know who's who. They just see a fez and a turban. They think, oh, Moors. But the reality is that a great disservice was done, right? When they say, well, where's the Moorish unity? I could call a Moor right now on the phone near Switzerland.
Mhm.
I can call Moor right now near Germany. In almost every so-called state, I can call a Moor. And me and them are going to be on the phone for 3-4 hours. So I don't know what disunity and all that stuff is, because I only deal with Moors who are on the path of liberating our people, uplifting fallen humanity, doing the things that are necessary for our people to get themselves out of mental slavery. You know what I mean? So what Moors could do, the Moors who are already on the path and that are um, 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 learning the truth about their nationality and birthrights, keep learning the truth about your nationality and birthrights.
Mhm.
Don't be don't be like what you said. I had to step back because I realized that there's division and whatever like that. Don't step back, because this is the only salvation you got. The black stuff isn't going to save our people, as it hasn't. The African slave stuff isn't going to save our people, because it hasn't. The metaphysical stuff it's all good, but if you don't have a nationality, that stuff's not going to work. Ask the Haitians, because they got nationality, and look how good their voodoo and stuff works. Look all the Nigerians and all that stuff, how good voodoo works with them, and they got nationality, right?
Yeah.
Look at the all the people in South America, the Santeria and all that stuff. They got nationality and their voodoo works. How come these people in North America, who they know every Orisha, they know every ancient whoever, and the stuff's not working for them? They burn more sage than anybody else, and their stuff still messed up. Obviously, something's wrong with them. It's not the subject matter. It's not the school of thought.
Mhm.
It's the actual people not having the power to back up what it is that they're claiming. So if you're deterred, for example, I was talking with a more earlier, and they were talking about, well, I dealt with this grand sheik and he's not doing this and he's not doing that and they're not doing that. They didn't say forget the Moorish thing because of this one trader. They stayed in there. They stayed on it. You know what I mean? They kept studying. They kept themselves in the realm of the information. They're just doing it on their own now, because they realize that these individuals in this temple that I was dealing with, they're traders and they're sellouts. So I'm not going to deal with them. I'm going to separate myself from them, because Noble Ali told the Moors, it's by your deeds that's going to let me know who you are. It's not by your words. Your words of lips mean nothing.
Mhm.
Show me what you're doing for your people. And if they're not doing for the people, then they're probably not for the people. Leave those people alone. Find some Moors who are doing good and help those Moors do more good than they're already doing. That's
Gotcha.
what Moors could do. Find Moors who are sincere. Find Moors who, when you say Islam to them, they say Islam to you, and then you can go have a conversation about whatever. They're not gonna go into, so who's your grand sheik and all that. Oh, you study from Taj Street Bay? No, you can't study from him. You gotta. As soon as they start going there, you already know that they're COINTELPRO.
Gotcha.
As soon as they start telling you The Moors who have been doing work are criminals, and all they do is get people arrested and whatever. As soon as they start talking like that, you already know these people are sent people to try to get you to throw away your birthrights so the European could pick it up and use it to violate you.
Let me ask you this in regards to the Supreme Grand Council. Now, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Now, you may have some brothers that feel that there isn't a Supreme Grand Council, does not exist because of all the infighting, division, things of that nature. To you, do you recognize a Supreme Grand Council in the Moor Science Temple? Is there a council, a council you go to and be like, okay, I got questions, I need help, my charter's not doing well, whatever the case may be? Is there a Supreme Grand Council for you to go to? And if there is, what do you say to brothers that say, well, you know what, I ain't seeing it, I don't see it, I don't see it?
The 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 Supreme Grand Council that's around right now, that you can pull them up online. They got a phone number, they got a website. You can find them. It's not like they're non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is, again, that the individuals who took on the mantle of saying that they're going to be for Noble Drew Ali and they're going to be for whatever like that, they closed this thing in and made it for only people who are part of it, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is what the issue is when you analyze what Noble Drew Ali presented. So Noble Drew Ali gave you the names of all the people who are Supreme Grand Council. We're going to be starting this thing up. Moors, get yourself ready and all that stuff. They started doing the things that they were supposed to do. After Noble Drew Ali transition, now you have, 5 different grand bodies. Why is there 5 grand bodies? Why can't all these Moors who are in all these different temples, calling themselves Temple Number 1, figure this stuff out? Because they're part of the sellout. They're part of the infiltration.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you go question Supreme Grand Council right now, first thing they're talking about, are you a member? But then they're supposed to be for the nation. They're supposed to be administering to all and any Moors. Anybody who knows about their nationality being Moorish American supposed to be able to go to Supreme Grand Sheikh with questions, Grand Sheikh with questions, Supreme whatever with questions.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be able to have access to them. Again, the reason why the people have no access to them is because they've been playing church, and our people don't want church anymore. They're done with church and religion.
Right.
Our people need something different. That's not working. What we're saying that's working is civics, learning the law, because nobody's done that. That realm is almost non-existent amongst our people. And how we know that? Because anytime they have an issue, they're going to go hire a lawyer who works for them people. That's abusing them. Right?
No comment. No comment.
Right? So when we talk about Supreme Grand Council, yes, we know that they exist, right? Are they the right individuals? That will be determined on when you check them and their response to you. If their response to you is playing like this is some type of membership thing, and well, you got to be a member of the whatever, then these people are doing you a disservice, and there's really no Supreme Grand Council. And then if I was to say Supreme Grand Council for my issues, it's going to be Moors who I say are Supreme Grand Council, Moors who I trust, because there's a lot of these Moors out here, I don't trust them like that.
But that speaks to the bigger issue.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's called the Great Schism.
Yeah, to me it's disheartening because, like I said, no diss to Nate, the NOI or anybody else, but I thought like the Moors would never get to this. It would never get this bad. It would never be like them over there and them. And I'm like, oh, it is this bad.
Yeah. And again, it's not a we're defeated statement. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. You know what I mean? You have righteous people, you have unrighteous people. The unrighteous people have been running the show for so long that people think that's the standard when it's not. They're the unrighteous people. The standard are the ones who they've been talking BS about for the past 30, 40 years. The RV Bay publications, the Taj Tariq Bays, the Grand Sheik Nature Bays, the Asir the Duke of Tears, the the Alimel Bays. There's select few. It's not like it's you know what I mean. It's not like there's some whole array of Moors out there putting out the right info. There's select few. There's more Moors putting out wrong info than Moors putting out right info. And it's about getting with the Moors who are putting out the right info. You know what I mean? So on our channel, on our YouTube channel, Canaanland Moors, one of the brothers did a video called More Vengers.
Okay.
And it's talking about all the master teachers who we think people should be looking at as the ones to look at, because as a collective, they have over 200 years of Moorish knowledge. You can't go wrong with that. Over 200 years of Moorish knowledge amongst, 7 individuals or whatever like that. You could study from them, learn from them, and get yourself in order, and not even have to need these people who have been doing anything for the past 100 years. Because remember, there was a campaign to get the people to look at the Moorish movement as some religious thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was an actual agenda set in place by the U.S corporation to have the people be represented by individuals who are going to put U.S first and then more second. So you can see that, for example, when you go to the temple and then you see them have the Star Spangled Banner first and then the Moroccan flag second, when it's supposed to be the other way around, because the home flag is supposed to be first if you're talking about flag protocol. You're never going to put the colonist flag before your own flag. If you go to jiu-jitsu gym,
Mm-hmm.
or samurai gym, or karate or kung fu gym, they don't got the banner before their national flag. They have their national flag first. You know what I mean?
Okay, so basically more division moving forward.
I mean, well, again, the division is because there are people who have been treasonous in their activity,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's been done about them. Right? There's nothing's been done about them. So part of my quote unquote mission with regard to being in the Moorish movement is to present the people who are traitors. So the people know, don't go to those people, because I'm talking from the Grand Sheik chair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking from being part of the temple.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking from going to a temple that I know is de jour, and then hearing stories from people who went to other temples, and it's absolutely opposite of the Moors who we came in under. Completely opposite. But those people say that they're Moorish Science Temple. Those people said that they're Moorish movement. Those people say that they're Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and then they're spelling Prophet Profit. They say they're for Noble Drew Ali. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If that's what's out there, then guarantee there's going to be division. Because you can't be supporting traders and want liberation. It doesn't work like that.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. I'm gonna give you some terms, and I want to get your perspective on it. Washita versus indigenous versus aboriginals versus Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Which one makes more sense, or which is correct, or are they all correct in different aspects?
Well, Washita, you can go UN. UN will tell you that they're the oldest indigenous people.
Okay.
So if UN saying that they're the world's indigenous people, then people saying that they're indigenous, Aboriginal, Indian, or whatever like that, that means they're later, right?
Okay.
Um, um, the other part of it is that indigenous, Aboriginal, and all these things are misnomers. Washita call themselves Moors. It's known that they're Moors. Where the hell's the thing at? It's known that they're Moors. The Washita called herself Moors, and then you have the Empress of the Washita, right? Verdiashi El Bey, as proof that they're Moors because they got El Bey on their stuff,
Mm.
right? You go talk to all these Indians or whoever like that. They'll talk about their Lone Walker and Skywalker and all that stuff. That's not indigenous names.
Okay. And then to those that use the term Aboriginal and Indian.
If you look up Aboriginal, it'll tell you that's an adjective, just like black. So that can't be a people. That's a description.
Okay.
And then Indians come from India, and this is not India. So those people saying that they're Indian, well, it says in the Constitution, Indians not to be taxed or whatever. Well, that's the colonists that said that. So if the colonists is calling you Indian not to tax you, but then you live on a reserve where, so what if you don't pay tax? You live on a reserve. You don't even have clean drinking water.
Mm.
You care about taxes, not paying taxes. Your babies went through the residential schools and got murdered by these colonists. Why is it that they're going to say that they're Indian? Because it's misinformation. Because really, Indian comes from Los Indios. Lossindios. Los Indios. Where the hell is this thing at? There's right here. And go get this one. And let the Indian tell you that they're not Indians.
Well,
Los Indios.
let
And
me
Los
ask.
Indios is a Los Indios or Indian comes from the Vatican. So if these people call themselves Indian, they're basically calling themselves what the Vatican called them. Should they be trusting them? As far as the people who should be naming them, should they be listening to them, or should they be maybe listening to somebody else?
Well, let me ask you this. Even if we disagree with the terms, do we at least agree in part that we all, to some degree, understand we are the originals here?
Yeah, that should be understood. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that should be understood.
So
That
we do.
we are the so-called black people
Yeah.
are the Aboriginal and indigenous people of not just the Americas but the world. We're the first people everywhere, so we're indigenous to everywhere. That's not just a term over here, right? When
Okay.
we say we're indigenous, that's everywhere. Nigerians are indigenous to over there. Ghanaians are indigenous to over there. Congolese, whatever nation you're gonna name over there, I bet you it's dark-skinned people who were the first people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yes, we agree that um, the first people, the original people of the planet, are the people with high concentrations of melanin. The problem is that they don't know that. They think they're Negro, black colored, and black Indians and all this, which puts them into a different caste. That takes them out of the original caste and puts them into the subjugated caste. Because how the colonist rules is by the art of definition. They rule by defining things, right? And then we fall into slavery by going with their definitions for what things are.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So this is why again Noble Drew Ali said we're not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian. because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders. So why would you call yourself the name given to you by a slaveholder? Why wouldn't you call yourself the name that your prophet brought you?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you call yourself the name that another Aboriginal and Indigenous individual called you? And keep in mind that Noble Drew Ali was Cherokee, never called himself Cherokee ever, which is another jewel that he was dropping. Okay, if he's Cherokee and he's saying we're Moorish American, then all these people who's telling people that they're Cherokee, obviously that's a fiction. And then when the $5 Indian Cherokees kick out the black Cherokees from the Cherokee tribe or whatever like that, right? Kick them out because they're telling them, well, you're not Cherokee. They're freeing them. They're letting them know you're not part of this fake stuff. But the Cherokees are going to be mad and they want to be Cherokee and all this stuff when they absolutely have it upside down.
I think part of our problem is everybody wants to be right, you know, and I mean right by, okay, I want to give the knowledge to our people. That's what I mean as far as wanting to be right, not to be wanting to be right just because it looks good, it sounds good, but I think a lot of us genuinely want to let our people know, okay, this is where we come from, this is who we are, this is why we're so subjugated. And you know, everybody is it seems fighting to be right, to shed the light to the people. Do you see a lot of that?
You ever heard the term wrong and strong?
Yes.
Yeah, that's our people's problem. They think that they're right, but they're actually wrong and strong. Which is where the confusion comes from, the division comes from, and all the things that we know are a detriment to our liberation as a people comes from. And then somebody made the thing of agree to disagree, right? Yeah and no, because truth stands on its own. You can't debate truth. Anybody disagreeing with truth, then they're obviously not for truth if they're disagreeing with truth. And anybody could do the research. Matter of fact, we'll take one out of this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Destruction of Black Civilization, Chancellor Williams. Now again, just who were the Moors? The answer is very easy. The original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were Black Africans. As amalgamation became more and more widespread, only the Berbers, Arabs, and coloreds in the Moroccan territories were called Moors, while the darkest and black-skinned Africans were called Blackamoors. Eventually, black was dropped from Blackamoor. In North Africa and Morocco in particular, all Muslim Arabs, mixed breeds, and Berbers are readily regarded as Moors. The African blacks, having had even this name taken from them, must contend for recognition as Moors. And that's Chancellor Williams.
That's right, yeah.
Who everybody knows, right? That's their scholar guy letting them know the name that we have to contend for recognition as is Moors. You think they're listening to Chancellor Williams? No. They're gonna read every page except that one. They'll skip over that part and not contend for recognition as Moors, but contend for recognition as Black, get nowhere. Contend for recognition as Negro, capitalize the N, capitalize the B. Contend for recognition as Indian, contend for recognition as tribes, contend for recognition as whatever it is else they make up. And not realize that what you should be challenging is the status of being more.
Final questions before I let you go. You're up North Canada.
Yeah.
What is it like for melanated people in Canada? Because I'm hearing some things. Give me proper perspective.
What have you heard? What have you heard about?
Well, as far as I would say the profiling is it could be bad depending on what part of the province you live in, right? But educate me, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, again, when we look at well, first, um, we acknowledge up here as Canaanland,
Okay.
and that came to us through the Washita.
Okay.
That the land up here is Canaan land. You can also go to the Underground Railroad records and look at all the slave hymns of when they were escaping to slavery. They were going to Canaan, not Canada.
Okay.
So obviously up here is Canaan, right? Um, with regard to the people here, it's the same colonial activities going on here that's going on everywhere else with regard to our people. Um, so people get abused here, people get their rights violated here. It's no different. It's the same thing wherever melanated people are. They're classed as the minority. um, they've even gone so far as to lump them all together now, and now they call them BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color.
Wow.
One, that's what they call them now. Like, there's not black people and whatever like that. They lump them all together now. If they lump Black, Indigenous, and people of color together, then that would mean that obviously these people are indigenous then, right?
By definition, yes.
By
Right?
definition.
Yes.
All right, so if these people are indigenous, then they should be checking the Moors, because the Moors are indigenous. They should be looking for the Moors out here
Hmm.
in order to get themselves in a proper status. Because if these people keep creating statuses for them that only put them further and further behind, then eventually the karmic debt is gonna not fall on the enemy, but it's gonna fall on the people,
On the people.
because
That's right.
people's ignorance
Yes.
is why they're in the situation that they're in.
Hmm.
It's not the enemies doing something now. Now it's really on the people. Now, are the people going to take the necessary steps to correct themselves so that not just their life could be corrected, but the world at large could be corrected, right?
Hmm.
When you're talking about um, the division, right? Ain't nobody talking about Russia and Ukraine division in fighting. They're not even bringing it up. It's not even a thing that they're looking at like that. They're seeing that there's a group of people who are getting violated by another group of people, and then everybody's rushing to help the people who are getting violated, right?
Hmm.
We're the people getting violated, but how come nobody's ever coming to our aid? How come they're gonna fly Ukrainians here to Canada or whatever, right? Give them, off the plane, they're getting somewhere to live. They're getting, jackets. They're getting clothes. They can go down to wherever and get their little donations from the whatever. But
Hmm.
the people who've been here for generations, they can't get jack from these people. Nothing. No assistance whatsoever from the quote unquote Canadian government. But all these other people are able to come here as foreigners, as immigrants, and get assistance. Why? Because they got nationality and our people don't. And our duty here is to let our people know the truth about their nationality and their birthrights. Let them know that they're not Negro, they're not Black, they're not Indian, they're not colored, they're not West Indian. They ain't come from some islands, that this is their home. And until they acknowledge themselves as who their ancient foremothers and forefathers are, or who their foremothers and forefathers were, then it's going to be an uphill battle for them. So it's the same everywhere. Same like what they used to talk about with the Vietnam War. The same rabid dog that bit you bit us.
Right.
And the unity is us realizing that we're of the same nation. But we have to agree that, like Chancellor Williams says, we have to contend for recognition as Moors in order to have that unity, the unity that we're talking about. Nobody's not saying don't be NOI. We're saying put Moors on it. We're not saying don't be Hebrew. We're saying put Moors on it.
Hmm.
proclaim your nationality as a Hebrew.
Mhm.
We know Hebrews who are Moors, that they got nationality card, Elbe and all that stuff, and they're Hebrew. They speak Hebrew, they study Kabbalah and all that stuff, but they know that they're Moors, right? Some years ago, I went to Springfield, Massachusetts, and they had a festival there, and NOI was the security.
Mhm.
When the Moors got up in there, all the NOI acknowledged what's up.
Okay.
Islam Moors, we honor Noble Drew Ali. We know Noble Drew Ali is the prophet. We thank you, Moors, for being at this thing so people could see the Moors in the public with us and all that stuff. This is what NOI is saying. So they know what's up, right? The Rastafarians, Haile Selassie has a golden fez on. That's their God. If Haile Selassie has a golden fez on, and then they know him as the black sovereign and all that stuff, what's that telling them? And what don't they get? That they don't want to declare their nationality because he knows that he's Abyssinian. He has nationality. He knows he's not Ethiopian. He knows he's Abyssinian.
That's right.
Right? Well, Nation of Gods and Earths. All of them know that Fard Muhammad came here to the wilderness of North America, and the first person he bumped into was Noble Drew Ali. That's in their own literature, right? And then when you look at their logo, that's the Circle 7, same stuff as the Moors, right? You know, and again, like somebody just said, you know, why we can't have a panel? Because only nationals do that. Negroes, stateless people can't be on a panel talking about rights and law and all that stuff. It's not going to work.
I'm laughing because
You know
we're
I
in
mean?
agreement. Yes, yes.
A good example is every black guy who tried to go to the UN and they kicked them out of
Kick
there.
them out of there. Yeah, exactly.
Why they kicked them out of there? Because they're stateless.
That's right.
The international community doesn't even want to listen to our people.
That's right.
But El Haj was able to go, but then they murdered him. Because you know that fake name that they call Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X. You know that wasn't his name. You know he had Malik El Shabazz on the passport and all that stuff.
That's right.
And he was only calling himself Malcolm X because his people were dumb and they weren't on game. But the passport said Malik El Shabazz, not Malcolm X on it. And we already know El is a Moorish name, so why are these people still denationalizing him and calling him Malcolm X? Why they still saying Yassine Bey, aka Mos Def? Why they playing games when he told them on stage himself, stop calling me Mos Def. That ain't my name.
That's right.
That's a entertainment whatever.
Yeah.
That's not my name. He put Noble Drew Ali on the back of the convention picture on the back of the album and all that for
That's
these
right.
Negroes to get their stuff straight. Ghostface came out, told these people he's Black Noble Drew Ali and all that stuff. They're not hearing him. Nori came out and said, Noble Drew Ali, hey. Nobody hearing him. You know what I mean? Nas came out, told the ghetto Othello, the Moor and all that stuff. They're not hearing him. Kanye West told these people slavery's a fiction. That ain't real. They don't want to hear him. They call him crazy man and all that stuff because he's calling himself God and he's calling himself starting his own religion and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What we want? All these different movies. You know, a matter of fact, they just had Atlanta.
I'm up to it. Yeah.
Talking about Moors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Brother had the fez on in there and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But our people are in bad shape. You know what I mean? And the only thing that's gonna free them is knowing the truth about who they are and who their foremothers and forefathers were. And we are them without doubt or contradiction. We are our foremothers and forefathers. But like the master teacher Taj says, in order for us to rise, we have to rise from where we fell. You can't fall in the kitchen and rise in the bathroom. If you fall in the kitchen, you got to rise in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
We fell as Moors. So the only way we're going to rise again is as Moors. And anything else is going to continue, is going to perpetuate this same stuff that we realize is the issue with our people. We can't get along for jack. But ask anybody else with a nationality. I bet you they get along.
Yeah. I got two final questions before I let you go. But
Yes,
before I
brother.
do that, let me address these super chats real quick from the people. Necessary, she says, hashtag I support Supasly75. Thank you, hun.
Brown paper bag.
And Dara says, we need a Dane and Duke Seer on the live ASAP.
Brown paper bag.
If we could get it to happen, we'll make it happen. My final two questions for you tonight. First question: is this everything that melanated people are experiencing across the globe or the world, whatever the case may be? Is this unresolved spiritual karma that we're paying for?
It is. You could look at it from that perspective. Um, we sort of, we've shot ourselves in the foot by listening to sellout leaders. Majority of our people, whether we talk about over on the continent, they listen to sellout leaders because were about the if they were about the liberation of the continent, they would have just, everybody would have just backed Gaddafi, who was going to give these people their satellite, right? Who was going to bring back the gold standard,
That's right.
who was going to pay off everybody in Africa's debt so they could start from zero, which
Right.
is what all the colonists should have did and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But nobody backed him. They let these people run in there and murder him, right? Claiming that they're for the people, and then now they have African Union and all that stuff, which is a fiction, because Africa's a Roman term, so they're already letting you know. So they got karmic debt for that. And then the people over here, same thing. They had a prophet that came to them. They're gonna listen to Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius. They're gonna listen to all these different prophets, prophet who came around them who looked just like them, that brought them everything it takes to save a nation, and we're supposed to take it and save themselves, didn't. So now the ones over here, now we're getting our karma for that, because we're still calling ourselves these fictitious names. We're still identifying ourselves as the African kings and queens and whatever like that, the ancient Egyptians and the black Egyptians, and when there was that stuff doesn't exist. It's all a facade. We've been played by our own. And again, if anybody is familiar with Steve Coakley, he called out all these people as being Boule. He called out all these people as being Sigma, Phi, Bi, Tri, Lie, and whoever else. And the people are still following these people today. They still got. They're still gonna go call um, all these Masonic, these Prince Hall people to represent them in court and all that stuff, when it's documented fact that these people are on the other side. So it's a lot of karmic debt that we're receiving. And like you said, there's also spiritual karmic debt. So we're double in debt. We're in debt spiritually, and we're in debt physically. Right?
Final question. Where would you like to see? What would you like to see happen? In your perfect world, what would you like to see? How this this moves forward? 20 years from now, when your kids grow up, they go to the temple. What would you like for them to see? And moving forward.
Um, if it was my perfect world, I would like to see um, our people get out of the mental servitude, get out of the slavery, especially mentally, um, and start wanting to handle their own affairs. So, for example, with our temple, um, the parents of the temple, they took it upon themselves to start up a school because they're fed up with their children being miseducated. So they said, we're going to start a school that the parents are going to run, so that we can teach our children the information that they need. Um, and there's Moors all over the country who, whether they're doing homeschooling, whether um, they just are teaching their children this information. Their children are going to these European schools, and they're coming out with A's, B's, you know what I mean, and you know, having um, a positive experience in these institutions because they're going in there knowing who they are, so they can't get played, right? So I'm looking at the future generations being connected to this information, because that's really who it's about. I'm looking at the mothers being connected to this information because the mothers are the ones who are going to be teaching the children in the womb. So if mother's right, then the child's going to come out right automatically,
Mhm.
right? And again, we see it as we're there. This doesn't apply to people who are stateless. We're talking about Moors right now, right? Stateless people are going to get themselves on board if they want to. But as far as Moors, we see, like um, Martin said, we've seen the promised land. We climbed up the mountain and we saw the promised land. We might not make it there with all these Moors, but we know for a fact that things are looking in favor of the Moors. Things are looking in favor of the ones who are honoring their foremothers and forefathers and getting knowledge. Because scriptures tell you that our people die by the day for a lack of knowledge. And it's evident if we can see Fez's in Atlanta TV show, it's evident that the word is getting out. It's evident that the message is being spread. It's just for our people to pick up the mantle and start taking some hold of their affairs and stop wanting colonists to take care of it. And we're making progress in that direction.
Ah, true words never spoken. With that being said, shout yourself out. Where can the people find you? All that good stuff.
You could find me on Canaanland Moors YouTube. You could also find all my books at khalifamedia.com. You could find our Moorish music at willofalah.com. And we employ everyone who's listening to go to the website called rvbaypublications.com and at least start learning a little bit about this information. It might seem deep, it might seem like the rabbit hole is deep, but where we're at as a people, we need to do something, and it starts with getting knowledge of self. And also on the Instagram, you could add um, at Moorish MC on Instagram. And I also want to say honors to you for having us here to at least you know put out something to hopefully inspire our people, and continue doing the work that you're doing with having these types of discussions, because our people definitely need it. And based on the 96 that's in here, we see that they're obviously receptive to the message. So honors to you.
No, and thank you. I humbly accept. I like I said, I just wanted to have the conversation. I wanted people to be able to get their perspectives out, without feeling slighted or anyone feeling like they're taking sides. Because I wanted clarification because I want to see this thing get back on track. I'm personally attached to it. That's why I'm so disheartened at what I'm seeing right now. So I'm
Yeah,
thankful for all you guys, whether you all agree or disagree with each other, just to come on here and speak your piece, because that's what I want you guys to get your words out.
yeah,
And whatever it is, I want you guys to have a chance to be heard. So if I'm just a conduit, then that's what I'll
and
be.
that's what
And
it is. Yeah,
yeah, so once again, I
yeah.
appreciate you. Thank you, brother, for all your time. um
Not sure.
any last words you have for the people, anything like that?
Just as usual, Islam to all the Moors out there. Honors to all the mothers out there. Thank you for giving us life and having us on this plane so that we can get some work done in your honor. And without leaving it out, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali for being the man and presenting to us what it is that we needed to save ourselves. And with that, I yield the floor.
Thank you, brother Cujo. With that being said, it's peace and Islam to you and to your family, loved ones, and much continued success. I want to, eventually bring you guys back. Keep me up posted on your endeavors, whatever the case may be. And like I said, my platform is here. You got something that you want to say? I'm here for it. You ain't got to ask, beg, pay money for this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not how I get down. So as long as I'm here, you guys will be here.
And as well too, if there's any more you're looking at getting some contacts for, just
Okay.
let me know. We'll
I appreciate that.
Get your contact to them so they can get on here and say their piece.
Right on, right on. Well, by all means, go enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of it with your family, brother, and we'll speak soon.
Peace and love, bro.
Peace,
Islam,
bro.
Morgan.
Islam. All right. Wow. Can't we all just get along? Shit. I thought the beef sector was bad. My goodness. But like I said, I want to thank everybody that came out. Love and light to everybody. Those that donated time and energy, financial contributions, whatever the case may be. I want to keep this series going. Like I said, my platform is open. If you are, if you are for or against, you believe with the Moors, you're against the Moors, whatever the case may be, I want you to, at least come here and speak your piece, because I want everybody's word or perspective to be heard and shared. I'm not biased. I don't have a dog in anybody's fight. You know what I'm saying? I just want people to be able to come and say what they have to say. So with that being said, I thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I will do this again real soon. Y'all have a good one. Peace. And final is I want to thank my guest, Grand Sheikh Cujo L from Canaanland. So I will no longer call it Canada. It will be Canaanland. So if you're a Canadian and I say Canaanland, you don't know what I'm talking about, I can't fuck with you. Y'all have a good night. Peace.